I want to make it clear that this man is a wolf in sheep's clothing who has been leading people astray for decades.
For years, Joel Osteen stood at the center of one of the largest churches in the world. But long before the arena lights and national broadcasts, he was just a quiet kid in Houston. He was born in 1963, one of 6 children raised inside the growing ministry of his father, Joel Osteen. In 1959, his father founded Lakewood Church in an old feed store with just a few hundred seats. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't famous, but it was growing. Joel didn't plan to preach. He studied radio and television for less than a year before dropping out. At just 19, he returned home to work behind the scenes. Cameras, lighting, editing. For 17 years, he never delivered a sermon. He produced his father's television program instead. Then everything changed. On January 17, 1999, Joel preached for the first time. 6 days later, his father died of a heart attack. In overnight, the man who avoided the spotlight inherited a church of 6,000 members. Many doubted him. He had no formal theology training, no preaching background. But something unexpected was about to happen. Within 5 years, attendance nearly quadrupled. By 2004, weekly crowds had climbed past 25,000. Soon after, they reached more than 30,000. It became the largest church in America. And Joel made a move few pastors would dare. In 2003, Lakewood signed a 30-year lease on the former home of the Houston Rockets, the Compaq Center, a 16,000-seat sports arena. The renovation cost nearly $95 million. 5 new floors were built inside. Waterfalls, broadcast studios, classrooms, miles of new carpet. On July 16, 2005, the doors opened. Every seat was filled. It wasn't just a church anymore. It was a production. Our television reach expanded to more than 100 countries. An estimated 10 million viewers tuned in weekly. Highways filled with billboards. Prime airtime slots were secured in major cities. Joel preached hope. He preached possibility, and the numbers kept rising. But with growth that fast, scrutiny was never far behind. In October 2004, Joel released a book titled Your Best Life Now. Few expected it to explode. Within 3 months, it sold over 500,000 copies. By the next year, it passed 1 million. It would go on to sell more than 4 million worldwide and stay on the New York Times bestseller list for years. The message was simple: speak victory, expect an increase, believe that God wants you to thrive. You can bless your future or curse your future, he often said. God's dream for your life is bigger than your own. It didn't sound like traditional preaching. There were fewer sermons about sin or judgment, more about confidence, more about purpose. Critics called it prosperity gospel. Supporters called it hope. Meanwhile, Lakewood's annual budget climbed toward $90 million. Media spending alone reached over $25 million a year. Joel launched Night of Hope arena events across the country, selling tickets for about $15 each. Tens of thousands filled stadiums. It looked unstoppable. But as the platform grew larger, so did the questions. Was this revival or branding? By the late 2000s, the numbers were hard to ignore. Lakewood operated on roughly $90 million a year. About $31 million went to weekly services. More than $25 million funded television and media outreach. Millions more covered events, administration, and operations. But only around 1 to 2% went to missions and outreach. That figure, roughly $1 to $2 million, became a lightning rod. Critics repeated it often: 1% out of 90 million. Joel insisted he took no salary from the church. Since 2004, he said his income has come from books and speaking events. Estimates placed his personal wealth between $40 and $100 million. He lived in a Houston home valued at over $10 million. None of this was illegal, but perception matters. He preached abundance. He preached increase. He preached that God wants you to rise higher. Yet many asked, when a church grows this wealthy, where should the money go? Then came 2020. Lakewood received $4.4 million through the federal Paycheck Protection Program during the pandemic. The church later returned it. But by then, when the debate had already spread nationwide, and the image of untouchable growth began to crack. In August 2017, Hurricane Harvey flooded Houston. Streets became rivers. Families were stranded. Thousands needed shelter. Lakewood Church stood high and dry. The 16,000-seat arena was not underwater, but its doors did not open immediately. Online posts from the church said the building was inaccessible due to flooding, yet photos began to circulate. Roads nearby appeared clear. Social media exploded with one phrase: "Open the doors." The backlash was fast and loud. Celebrities weighed in. Local residents questioned why furniture stores opened before one of the largest churches in America. Mattress Mac, a Houston businessman, became a symbol of quick action. Comparisons followed. Days later, Lakewood opened its doors as a shelter. Nuts Joel later said the church never refused anyone and was coordinating with city officials.
We worked with the city constantly. The city set up a shelter about 4 miles from here that can house 10,000 people, showers, dormitories, kitchens, security, all that. They didn't need us as a shelter at that point. They wanted us to be a distribution center, things like that. So we said, fine, you do that, we'll do our part.
But the delay became the headline. For many critics, it confirmed a deeper fear. That image came before action. For supporters, it was a misunderstanding amplified by the internet. But the damage lingered. The hurricane passed. The questions did not. And the next crisis would test the church in ways no storm ever could. On February 11th, 2024, a normal Sunday at Lakewood turned into chaos. Just before 2 p.m., a woman entered the building with a rifle. She brought her young son with her. Within minutes, shots were fired inside a hallway near the sanctuary. Off-duty police officers working security returned fire. The shooter was killed. But her 7-year-old son was struck in the head during the exchange. A church volunteer was also injured. The service was canceled. Sirens replaced worship music. For a church that welcomes roughly 40,000 people every week, security was expected. There were officers on site, cameras, procedures, yet somehow a weapon made it inside. Joel later stood before the congregation and urged them not to live in fear. He prayed for the victims. He spoke of faith under pressure. But online, the tone was different. People asked how someone with a history of mental illness obtained the rifle. Others questioned church security. Some demanded broader gun reform. The sanctuary had always been a place of hope. Now it was a crime scene. And the pressure was no longer just about money. It was about safety. Even before the shooting, another quiet shift was happening. Younger Americans were leaving church. Recent surveys show only about 15 to 16% of millennials and Gen Z attend church regularly. That's the lowest level recorded in modern U.S. history. Many say they still believe in God, but they distrust institutions. Mega churches feel distant. Polished stages feel corporate. Large budgets raise suspicion. Lakewood, with its arena setting and global broadcast reach, represents the very model younger generations question. Joel's message focuses on positivity and personal growth. It avoids heavy doctrine. It stays clear of political fights. That helped him grow in the early 2000s. But today, younger audiences want transparency. They want activism. They want leaders to speak directly on hard issues, from inequality to mental health to gun laws. Silence can feel strategic, or it can feel empty. Meanwhile, what church attendance nationwide continues to decline, media reach is still strong. Social media followers number in the millions. But online engagement is not the same as loyalty. The arena still fills. Yet beneath the lights, a deeper question lingers. Is the model built for the next generation? Or was it built for a moment that's already passing? For decades, Joel Osteen has been untouchable. He built an empire of hope, books, and media reach. Millions tune in every week. Lakewood's arena still dazzles with lights, music, and polished broadcasts. Yet the cracks are visible. Critics question finances. Millennials and Gen Z are leaving in record numbers. Hurricanes, shootings, and controversies have tested both trust and perception. Questions about transparency and priorities continue to grow. Will even the most loyal followers now wonder, can this model survive constant scrutiny? Can a church with such wealth and influence truly meet the moral and practical expectations placed upon it? Joel preaches hope, positivity, and abundance, but the spotlight has never been brighter. Every choice is under the microscope. Every delay or misstep is amplified. And now the empire faces its biggest challenge, relevance. As younger generations seek purpose elsewhere, as crises and criticism continue to mount, Lakewood's future is no longer guaranteed. The lights shine, the music plays, the arena fills, but the question remains, how long can it keep standing under the weight of scrutiny, expectation, and change? The story isn't over.